Which one of you has thus far managed to follow her life dream? Who has fulfilled most, if not all, his fantasies? Who has been fortunate enough to surpass them? Well, here in TEDx and in many places, we hear about people that went through really far beyond their wildest dreams, hard endeavor to reach impossible goals. And as you know, I'm not referring to money, fame, or glory, but into the inner self and a sense of accomplishment that is, no doubt, most valuable in life. When I left home at the age of 21, with an old backpack and $800 in my pocket, I had no idea what to expect. As a simple, introverted person from a rather simple background, I had no idea that in the following 1,290 days, I would roam 33 countries, living in 8 of them, and surmounting unimaginable experiences. All I needed was an open mind and a call for adventure. And yet, even with that in perspective, the subsequent reflection took me to an unexpected, mindful conclusion that culminated in a broader understanding of life. And this is when my perspective changed to Trispective. Trispectivism is my idea that is based upon an ancient, esoteric philosophy known as Hermeticism, only without the alchemy and magic, but a more concrete, pragmatic approach to it. According to this view, everything around us is formed by 3 aspects: the universal all, the individual all, and most importantly, and what we tend to forget, is the content, omnipresent interaction in between. In other words, it is a way to remind ourselves that one's perspectives are not graved in stone, a way to make a person more aware, to enjoy a more conscious mind and spirit. When I share my travels, the different jobs I did, the haphazard yet fascinating encounters, and the many spontaneous life-changing decisions, I often encounter one of 2 responses. The first, sigh of surprise, eye wide open, and the second is a blank stare of disbelief and doubt. Actually, some of the adventures might seem so outlandish to the point that I've been told not to reveal any of them here for the fear of being seen as a delusional, a mythoman. Yet that I cannot do, because here I am, the product of a journey that expanded worldwide and ended, as Wilke once said, within. Through the years, many people ask me, what was I running from? What was I searching? Well, in the beginning, it was some sort of uncertainty for me. Because many people see exploration, travel, as if hanging from a foggy bridge, in the in-between zone, in between past and future, in between question and answer, in between not knowing and deciding. After some time, I started to realize that I wasn't really running from anything, obligations or responsibilities, and I wasn't really searching for anything in particular, better future, enlightenment. I was, however, experiencing. As Tolkien puts it, all that is gold does not glitter, not all those who wander are lost. Great authors as this one, Defoe, Voltaire, Rimbaud, and for me especially Hesse, were a great inspiration in my path, in my journey. They helped me to somehow pass from, or make my reality almost as fiction. But maybe I was looking for something, looking for my individuality, in a world of individuals, looking to face life on my terms. You see, I met a lot of people along the way, and what I'm really certain of is that each and every person has a story to tell, a beautiful, magnificent, emotional narrative, and I needed to create mine. Perhaps I wanted to somehow have my story as exciting and significant to compensate insecurities. Perhaps I needed to prove to myself that I can be more than what some had imagined me to be. Hence, I began to climb mountains. For a little while, I lived with indigenous people from the Shirawa tribe, dove with hammerhead sharks in the magnificent Maldives. For some times or some occasion, got into the rainforest, and after a little while, I felt so invincible, I actually thought to cross by myself the Darien Gap, this no man's land between Colombia and Panama. That was a big mistake, got lost over there. And thankfully for the Indians, I had some knowledge of how to eat lunch, for example, the junca palm trees. Those are the ones that you can recognize. And even more than that, I started to learn how to walk again. Well, walking became a lifestyle. Across Sicily by foot, in Panama, walked with my two beloved horses from the Pacific coast all the way to the Costa Rican border. That was inspiration by Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, after reading the book. What usually will take 2 hours by road took me more than 2 weeks, bathing with them in the rivers, sleeping with them, eating with them. I was living the wild and letting the wild dwell in me through both man and animal. And probably the one adventure really worth mentioning is the time when I found myself in a distant Pacific Bay on a narrow Indian canoe, when suddenly this huge humpback whale, I saw him surface next to me, about 1 meter, 1.5 meter to my left, another one, 1.5 meter to my right. Unfortunately, this is the only image I could manage, because my hand was shaking so bad, I was trembling all over, only imagining myself flipping and finding myself underwater in between those two enormous creatures. Thankfully, they weren't breaching, they weren't even coming to breathe. They were simply looking at us. And our eyes encounter in this beautiful and respectful interspecies natural curiosity. As many travelers would say, the result of any lifelong travel is in many moments of epiphanies, moments of cultural connectivity, of interaction, of relationships, moments of questioning of the hows and the whys, moments of long conversation with the self, of lucidity, of chaos, of absorbing the world like a sponge. The revelation one can have are many, especially in regards to the psychology of cultural intersection and the correlations of human, but sometimes beyond that, the animal kingdom and the majestic force of nature. Then I started to believe in something big, in experience, as the force that motivates us to live our adventures, that helps us shift from a stagnant mindset into growth, engaged learning. And so we see that awe-inspiring stories and adventures are great stories to tell. But is there something beyond that, beyond this personal example of mine? Well, I found there were so many similarities to the constant questions, meaningful questions, that I heard reiterated everywhere I went, in different cultures, in different languages, in different customs. Who are we? Where do we come from? And for what purpose? Those similarities were the expression of the constant problematic in balancing between the universal delimitation and the individual interpretation. And so I began to be more aware of my surroundings. I entered places of worship, participated in the Yachef ceremony with an Indian shaman. In other occasions, participated in some courses. One example is some sort of mixture between Jewish Kabbalah and Buddhist meditational techniques. And after all of that and many more encounters in different religions, different cultures, I decided it's time to let go. And then, like in any good story of prophets or self-awareness book, the minute you let go, the answer will reveal itself. After those years of travels, it took me another 5 years, new languages, university degree, and countless conversation. And then the answer started to appear, which was quite obvious, that the answer itself is never that simple. So I then trained my mind to see the world and everything in it in this kind of living the intuitive manner into a more conscious way. And that theory I call the Trispectivism, which is, for me, it's a logical way to approach all of those all-encompassing doubts. The examples are many and varied, touching all aspects of life. One example that is more about my personal creation is in the digital world. You see, we live among so much information. The technomania took us to very far away horizons. The world has never been smaller, and actually, some might call it as the global village. And here we are trying to make sense of it, each and every one of us in a special way. While in university, I began being interested in the endless possibilities of digital humanities. I was fascinated by a concept called self-interest sharing, which is very illustrative to this Trispectivism theory, because it's by taking the needs of many individuals, you can create a universal, but always making sure of the interaction in between. And so I thought of and devised a local collaborative system of blogs that we as philology researchers use to share and disseminate our investigation. That project received more than 500,000 hits and counting. So what is there but to let our curiosity grow and explore, find ourselves in places and situations that we never imagined? After all, it doesn't matter where we are, where we come from, what our parents do. The only obstacle is ourselves. The only limits and the biggest handicap is no other than our lack of imagination and a great deal of stagnation in creative and critical thinking. And even more than that, the Trispect mindset helped me to understand that happiness and fulfillment are the interaction in between the universal and the individual. That instead of waking up in the morning and asking myself, what can I do to make the world better? And then finishing the day, feeling a little bit doubtful about possibilities, feeling a little bit ambiguous about my own power to do things, I started to wake up in the morning asking myself, what can I do today to make my life better? Acknowledging the interdependence between the universal and the individual made me realize that while I changed myself, the individual, for the best, everything around me, circles of family, circles of friends, of co-workers, of people around, will ergo change to a better, joyful, happier quintessence of universal existence. Thank you very much.